Welcome to Tyrompers No Limit Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thanks so much for tuning in to Tyrompers No Limit Podcast, episode number 83, 84. We're right around there somewhere. Guys, this is the first two-time guest ever to come back on the pod because I love this guy so much.
Let's go.
That we have climbed mountains all over the world, in South Africa together, in the Mojave Desert together. This is one of my brothers, one of my best friends. He's an author, a speaker, a leadership coach. He's got a new book coming out. I absolutely love this guy. He has so many lessons that he can teach so many people. I'm actually even repping his brand, Jesus for Three. We're going to put them in the link too. I love this brand too. Doing a lot of good for the community. Welcome back to the pod, my brother Nick. How you doing today, man?
Man, thank you. I am so good. I'm so good. And I'm up here just north of Seattle in this like cloudy sky. If we were on yesterday or the day before, I would have been wearing a tank top if I was wearing any shirt at all, just to, it was so warm. And then today it's like back to normal.
I don't know how you guys deal with that, man. It's every day. I got a little sunburn yesterday. We were outside about 6 hours with the fam at the pool, the parks. That's pretty much every day. I dressed up specifically for this pod today. Up until 3 minutes ago.
Thanks for doing that.
I got to dress up in the nice attire, right? Well, tell us about how you're doing, brother. And maybe anybody who doesn't know you a little bit, can you just give a brief little intro, who you are, what you're about, some of your past stories and triumphs, man?
Man. Yeah, I like to say, I don't like to say, but I do say I've lived a lot of life, right? And maybe it's a lot of live. And this current season is just so good. And it comes by way of being on the other side of a journey. And that journey, if I write another book, I'm going to call it The American Walkabout. It's the journey of discovering myself, actually walking down the trail of Twitter, which led me to you, which led me to Hummel, which led me to, so many other people and places, put me in the mountains of Colorado, the Mojave Desert with you, alongside, I think, Lake Travis and in Austin, Texas with Zach Hummel, and then eventually to South Africa, to Swaziland with you and Annie and the crew. So my journey is such that, like, I've been through a lot of stuff, hard stuff, right? But I've also I've been in the valley, but I've also been on the mountaintop. And it isn't as though I lived in the valley and then lived on the mountaintop and stayed there. It's like I was here and then I was here and then I was here and then I was here. And, that's the way life is. And right now I'm going this way, right? So life is good. Yeah. I'm a father and I'll say a proud father and proud husband. I like to say that word, even though we aren't technically legally married, but I wear the ring, and we're committed. We'll fill out the paperwork soon, but living a great life, man.
That's awesome, man. I love your kids, man. I got to spend time with them, and that was such a blessing to see the way you father and make lessons out of things, and like it was just. I learned a lot from you, man. I left our trip and had some notes. Like I'm gonna have my kids doing book reports, like you mentioned. Like I took great notes from you.
Pretty rad.
You're a guy that I learned from so much, man. And we connected because, dude, we kind of lived similar path a little bit. How we had these really hard times and really hard things to overcome, and then man, to come out of those the way you have, and if you weren't just on Twitter one random day, who knows where you might be now? But can you kind of share what it's been like to crawl sort of out of some of those low points for you, and then to get to a life where you're just steadily kind of going up and up, man?
Yeah. So at some point along my journey, I learned that the only way out is through, and that there is a way, there is something on the other side. I learned that probably really, really young. My father left the home when I was 4, and he left the world when I was 10. He chose to end his life in suicide when I was just still in grade school. And even then, my friends would ask me the question, or they would make the statement, "I don't know how you do it, Nick. Like, I don't know how you," and I just didn't see any other way. Now, I would translate that in leadership lessons to vision. Like, I didn't see another way, but for living into some future that was better than the one that I was in. So in those moments when I'm at the deepest parts of the valley, and we can touch on those, I'm just seeing that there's something on the other side, and I'm believing in it. But then you don't do anything alone. Or at least I don't. So when I say you, I really mean me. I don't do anything alone. And so I look out to the world, my immediate circles and beyond, and I think, who are the people that I want to be with me on this journey? Who's going to take me to that next place? When I get to that next place, who do I want there? Mm. And in this most recent iteration of, being in the valley and coming out, there are people whom I had never met before that I chose to follow. You being one of those men. A voice of positivity, a voice of being connected with children, a voice of being dad first, husband first. And I thought, that's the life I want to live into. So I observed, people in my space, and I think to myself, are they living the life that I want to live? Is that in alignment, congruent with my values? Would I want to live that life? And then if the answer is yes, then I'm pursuing a relationship with people. So to bring all of that together, I have a vision of a life that I want. I look for people that are living that life. I go find those people, and then I hang out with them. I engage in conversation, just, back and forth on Twitter.
Yeah.
And then I learned, oh, well, Tyler's putting together a weekend. I'm going to go hang out with this guy. I'm going to learn how he lives. And then I'm going to take from that what I want and emulate it and then incorporate it into my own life. Right. So there's vision, there's action, there's relationship, and all of these things are like the very, very basic fundamental things that every human needs to, live a successful life as an individual, as a leader, as a husband, as a father. Like, these things are all universal.
Yeah, I think where a lot of people get stuck, and I think this is where I got stuck for a while, is I saw those people maybe living the life that I kind of wanted to for a while when I was in that valley, and my ego would protect me and say, well, dude, they were born wealthy. They have better genes than you. Well, you know what? You just have an anger problem. You're Italian. They don't. All these, instead of working on myself or finding community, like you said, and, I think it's such a cheat code. And I'm honored that you would say that you sought me out. I seek you out now too, man, and it's like, that's the beauty of community. And I think that's the power of it. I think, there's a reason Jesus had 12, right? A group of men is powerful together. Small group, you don't need thousands. You need
right.
A small group that's always growing with you and building up. But I think, what do you say to somebody who's maybe still stuck in that valley and can't see the vision out? They're just, every day seems a little bit hopeless, maybe.
Yeah, I would challenge the notion that they can't see the vision. I think every one of us has a vision inside of us. It's whether or not they allow themselves, so can't see it, allow themselves to see it, but those self-limiting beliefs, the lies, the stories that we tell ourselves. So the thing I would say to that person is anything telling you that you can't or you shouldn't or you won't is not true. Sure, it's going to be hard. Of course it's going to be hard. But that doesn't mean can't, shouldn't, won't. Right?
Yeah.
So embracing, like, what is the military thing? The embrace the suck, the do hard things, right? This is the mantra of so many, thanks, Zach, like, do hard things. Pursue the difficulty. Like, I almost want to sound like David Goggins right now, but I'm a little more gentle than he is. Right? But pursue the difficulty. Like, be the bison that faces the storm instead of the cow that runs from the storm, so on and so forth. Like, all of these platitudes that exist on Twitter, they're just true, man. Yeah. They're just true. So what do I say to that person that's like in the valley? I've been there. It sucks. It's hard. Yes, all of those things are true. Those are data. Those are fact. Now what? Now what are you going to do? What is that choice? And here's an interesting observation that I've made in the context of leader development, which is one of the areas one of the sandboxes that I play in. There's this question of motivation, and leaders will ask me, well, how do I motivate teams? And my answer is, I'm sorry, but you don't. Another person does, one person doesn't motivate another. Motivation is internal. I choose to be motivated by whatever, external stimuli. But if you think about it, like, are you motivated when you walk into the gym or when you walk out? Is it discipline that carries your body into the gym when you don't want to go, but you should? And are you then feeling motivated when you're done? And so some people are in the valley and they're like, I'm just not motivated. I just don't have the energy. I just, you know, yes, it's hard. Yes, it sucks. And when you do the things that you know you need to do, motivation comes.
Mhm. I think that's so true, man. Motivation's a scam. I always say I'm in shape because I go to the gym 100 days a year and I don't feel like it. That's just the truth, like
Yeah.
literally. And you're right.
Yeah.
When I walk out, I feel better, and I think that's a great point, man. Well, let's switch a little bit. You mentioned the leadership bucket, and that's something I love learning from you about. If I had met you, I think 6 or 7 years ago, I might be running 50, 500 branches right now in the corporate world, man. Because you have a real way of empowering a lot of leaders in that. And I got your book. I've read through this. This is fantastic, awesome. Guys. I'm going to link this in the chat below. And I think it's such an easy read. You can sit for 2 hours, fill a couple notebooks, man, with practical takeaways. And I love that. But I think you talk about that motivation and teams. And so I've run teams in banking and things like that. And it was hard to get myself motivated some days to go. So then now you're there trying to preach this to a team. Can you talk about a lot of your leadership lessons and some principles, and maybe that can segue into the new book too, man, and kind of a lot about your leadership training and where you go from there?
Yeah. So that book was written when I left a 25-year career in banking, and I'd been very successful. I'd been a division head, senior vice president, senior level roles, executive level roles, overseeing retail banking. So that's all the branches, consumer, mortgage lending, et cetera. Commercial payments, commercial banking, so that a lot of success in corporate America. And I had a heart to serve the middle manager. So this would be the branch manager, the territory manager, the division manager. So I wrote that book, 6-word lessons for middle manager. Took everything that I had learned in 25 years. And you can boil it down to really 5 or 6 fundamental areas, keys. Let's just start here. Identity and values. Like, who are you as a leader? Knowing who you are is number one. Got to be really clear in that. Number 2 is knowing something about the business that you're in, being a subject matter expert, being a master of your craft is very important. Number 3, and this is what trips many, many leaders and managers up, is coming to creating, crafting clean and clear agreements and holding people accountable, or at least creating a culture of accountability. And so I'll hang out here for a minute. Where we end up most often is that managers are telling people what to do and telling them that they have to agree to what they've been told to, and then thinking they have an agreement. So, Tyler, I'm going to expect that you do X, Y, and Z by Friday. Do you agree? And Tyler says yes, because, I'm your boss. What else are you going to do? It's like forced compliance. And then you're like, okay. And then at the end of the week, you don't do it. And it's like, well, we had an agreement. Did we really? So instead, if we can get to this place of leadership where it's like, okay, Tyler, what is it that you need to do by the end of the week to know that this was successful? Right? You know the job, you know what the expectations are. You tell me what you are going to commit to and what you're going to hold yourself accountable. And then I tell you what, at the end of the week, why don't you come tell me how you did based on these things that you said you're going to do? And that's our agreement, right? And if you tell me like, well, I'm probably going to come in late 3 out of 5 days. Okay, so we need to renegotiate the agreement. You're like, that ain't gonna fly. So I'm not saying we give the keys over to the people on our team, but there's a different way to approach agreements, and it is empowering, and it acknowledges that
the ownership of, hey, man,
exactly.
And then I feel like I can come to you if I need help, but I have ownership of my project. It's not like, oh, dude, Nick's riding me and I got to have this done by Friday. It's I'm setting the terms. I feel more in control, right?
Yep, exactly. And this is an evolution in society and in the workforce. Like 30, 40 years ago, managers didn't need to do this. They could tell people what to do and expect them to do it, but we have evolved, right? And today, this multi-generational, the challenges that exist where, I'm 43. If I'm managing somebody that's 23, there's a huge difference in perspective.
Yeah.
But this kind of agency, this kind of ownership, this kind of an agreement is it actually works across generations, right? Now, the very difficult thing is the leader has to be ready and willing to have that hard conversation to say, you know what, this isn't the right fit for you. This isn't the right place. We need you to have ownership in this job and in this vision, and you can make it a part of your own. But if that doesn't happen, then this isn't the place for you. We need to have those candid conversations too. So it's like, we need to be really gentle and really open-minded, but we don't have time to like coddle, right? It's not coddling. It's just, it's clean and it's clear. So then, the fourth thing that a leader just absolutely has to possess is discipline. Like you have to do the things that you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do them, and or have the integrity and the discipline to renegotiate agreements in a clean way. It's like I have to be able to go to my boss or to the people that are on my team and say, listen, this is the agreement that I made, and I chose to do something else. So we need to renegotiate the agreement. That accountability goes both ways. And then the fifth area is relationships. We kind of talked about that, how important relationships are and how you show up in relationships and how that matters, what you offer, what you have to gain, and being strategic around that. And then I'd wrap it all up with being clear about your purpose and your vision and your missions that you're going to accomplish throughout life. So all of these things feed into the 100 lessons that are in that book for middle managers. You mentioned another book that I've written. It is in kind of final edits and ready for publishing here pretty soon. This is 6-word lessons for the C-suite, the executive leaders, right? So one notch up the corporate ladder from that middle manager. Many of the same rules apply, but there's a different perspective. There's a different accountability, right? But I also bring all of these into a course that I've created and that I take teams and individuals through. And I call that one Prepare to Lead. And all of this is just around this notion, this mantra that I live by, which is you've got to make time to prepare for a time when there is no time. Make time to prepare for the time when there is no time. In my life story, I was married almost 13 years, and the mother of my sons was taken from us in a real tragic accident, suddenly and unexpectedly. And I wasn't prepared. I was not prepared. And that took me from the mountaintop to the valley real fast. And I stayed in the valley and even went lower than I anticipated. Because I wasn't prepared.
Hardest things to get over, but I guess looking back on that, because I'm a guy that only knows you in the season of your life as sort of on this growth journey, right? I never knew that guy back in the valley, really, and so it's so inspiring. And I couldn't believe when you first told me that, man. To lose her in such a tragic way, and then to get yourself back to that spot you are. And I think that should inspire anybody that alone, right? Like 99% of the people, man, my problems pale in comparison to something like that, right? And so maybe somebody's saying, well, I got fired. Well, I'm overweight. Well, I'm in a sexless marriage. Well, I'm addicted to this, right? Okay, well, those are problems, not negating them, but you can crawl out, you can fight back. And I love what you said earlier is you got to look at those lies in your head and kind of how do you beat those? It's with the truth. And start to tell yourself, yes, I can. Yeah, I can get up and take this next step. I can reach out to that person. I can do that, man. So I just love the ownership piece of your life, man. And you do live what you preach, man, which I think is ultimately nobody's going to listen to somebody who, yeah, I can tell you all the right things, but if I'm not living it, what's it matter, right?
Yep. I've got receipts. I've got receipts. And one of those receipts is the exchange, an exchange receipt for the one body for another. You talk about being overweight. There was a point in my life when I was pushing 310 pounds. Like I got on the scale at 305 and maybe got bigger and didn't look back, right? Didn't get back on the scale. So having come out of that valley in particular, and knowing, just there were times when I would look in the mirror and I would say, there's just no way. There's no way this body's ever going to be different. How could I possibly? But I could see the body that I wanted underneath. Like there was the vision there, but the lies that I was telling myself was that it was impossible, that it wasn't going to happen. Man, look at the sunshine came up.
Hey, there you go.
We like that.
We'll
so,
sun, man.
So the notion that someone in the valley can't see a way out is one that I resonate with, one that I understand, because here I was, massively overweight, terribly out of shape, and I'd been an athlete growing up. Like I was a soccer player, played for high school. I played golf for my high school. I was a skier regularly. Like I was really an active kid. But then, here I got way out of shape, and I thought there's just no way back. But I did, and I followed the same kind of principles that I outlined earlier, which is I saw people that were living the life that I wanted to live, surrounded myself with them, and actually stopped hanging out with people that were living a life that I didn't want to live. That was difficult, right? I had to cut relationships with people that weren't serving me anymore.
Well, let's talk
and
about
then
that.
choose.
Even at work, man, if you want to go that direction, because that was a hard part for me when I went on this self-improvement journey. It's so typical at offices. Just, dude, everybody's eating cake, all day. Everybody's complaining constantly. And I fell victim to that. And I put on 20 pounds in my first couple of years. And my wife one time, I accused her of being negative. And she started laughing. She goes, read the last 6 text messages you sent me. It was like, this client sucks. I hate my job. And I'm like, oh man, that one hit hard. Right. So I had to change a lot of the things in my own mind, but a lot of these environments are really hard. And so, I guess you're talking to leaders about setting that culture.
That's exactly right.
That culture a little bit around at my branch where, dude, I had a boxing, we had a gym in the basement, man. And on 15-minute breaks, we go down there and hit the bag and do yoga and all kinds of stuff. I try to change that culture, but how do you talk to leaders that are maybe in those toxic environments, or maybe not even a leader? There's somebody that's trying to get to that middle manager level, but right now, dude, it just feels like their boss is always on them. Everything's negative. What do they do, man?
Yeah. So let's talk about first that person that's aspiring to lead that is in the toxic environment. And I am so fired up to encourage that person to stay the course. It's my belief that most people in the world will choose to follow someone who takes a positive stance. And my hypothesis around leadership is that leadership occurs in the moment one person chooses to follow another. Not by title, not by hierarchy, but the choice of one to follow another. So imagine you've got a boss that's really negative, and you've got a peer colleague that's really positive. So on the org chart, this person is in charge, but everybody kind of follows, the positive guy. So when the negative guy is like, yeah, he's out, the positive influence on the team, they're going to get promoted. So stay the course and stay positive. That has never failed me in my career. I have been accused of being overly positive, naive, Pollyanna, all these, words by the negative people. And guess what? I was asked to take over for them when they were asked to leave. Okay. So positivity, your shirt, man, positivity is a choice. Make that choice. Leadership is a choice. Positivity is a choice. Make that choice. Stay positive. Okay. So when I was going through this physical transformation, I used to be the guy that would bring in donuts and order pizza. 305-pound Nick would do that. When I chose to change my life, I started bringing in fresh fruit to the morning meeting. And sure, a couple people on the team were like, fruit, where's our donuts? But the truth is, they were happy that I made that choice. I mean, they just were, right? And so it takes a little bit of courage to go against the grain. And I've seen some of your tweets where you say like counterculture is now being a good husband and a stable father, like being happy and loving God like this. So maybe it is counterculture to bring fruit instead of donuts, but you know what? People like that.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, if my hypothesis is correct, that leadership occurs when one person chooses to follow another, and that people choose to follow without the leader knowing. Like, for example, you've got 100 and some odd thousand people who have chosen to follow you on social media, and you get to know that because there's a follower count. But there are a lot of people who see your stuff in the timeline and allow you to influence their life, and they haven't gone to your page to click follow yet. Twitter is the greatest example, like petri dish of leadership development I've ever seen in the context of my hypothesis, which is people, choose to follow leaders. Now, if for every one person who's chosen to follow you, Tyler, there's one person who follows but hasn't raised their hand, that's 250,000 people that you're influencing. And whether or not you're a leader of a 5-person store or 250,000 people in the world, the choices that you make actually matter. So take that responsibility on as a leader and buy the fruit, not the donuts. Take that responsibility on and go to the gym on your lunch break so that people see you doing that. Have a walking meeting instead of sitting around the office. Make those choices. And it's my belief, and actually proven through experience, that more people will choose to follow individuals who live a healthy, happy, positive life.
Everybody wants that, right? Everybody wants that.
That's right. That's right. I'm going to pause real quick. So just real quick.
You got it, man. I'm going to make a couple points there while Nick runs up here. Cause man, my mind's racing on that. I never really set out to be a leader, to be quite honest. When I started sharing on social media, my goal was just to I almost hold myself accountable and just kind of share. I never thought of myself, Nick, as quite I'm going to be a leader while I do these things. I was just working on myself. When I started bringing the fruit to the branch, and I got a funny story about that. And when I started going to the gym on my lunch break and started telling people, I'll give you $100 on the spot if you catch me eating one of these donuts, I'm never going to do it again. Right. I just was trying to improve myself. The really cool thing was there was some resistance there from some of the people. Oh, dude, what does he think? He's better than us? Does he think, I got some of that. Right. But the amazing thing was I had another employee lose 45 pounds. I had another employee who was a grandma tell me, I've lost 13 pounds. I can get on the floor again and play with my kids. Thank you. I didn't even know she was watching what I was doing. She started walking on her lunch break. I didn't even know it. Right. And so you don't have to think of yourself, oh, I have this leadership role. And I love what you said about there's some people up here, maybe on that org chart. I think of my father because, my dad notoriously had a boss that was not well liked. And my dad was very well liked in his job, where he had a lot of young kids that really liked him. He bought a basketball hoop. They played on lunch break. He ended up mentoring a lot of those younger kids, I would say. And he didn't necessarily have the highest leadership rank in that office. Anytime anybody had a problem, they went to my dad. Anytime he was kind of the go-between. He took on that leadership role. And how did he do it? He's 66. The guy still runs, lifts bikes every day, right? He just lived that on fire life and basically just said, hey, anybody wants to come along. And people did, man. So I think that's amazing. That's right. Last point I'll make, man, is when I was leaving, I knew I was already going to be out. At this point, I had many thousand followers on Twitter. I had a successful business. I knew my bank career was pretty much near the end, but I was just like you. Every morning, once a month, my boss would bring in donuts and we'd have this company meeting. And I actually talked to him. I pulled him aside. This is my boss, not an easy thing to do. And I said, brother, I appreciate this sentiment, but I'm not going to eat them. I don't even want my staff to eat them because what are they going to have? A sugar crash? They're not going to be their best. Either bring in fruit or don't bring stuff. And he actually said to me, dude, I would love to bring in fruit. I'm trying to be healthier too. I don't know why we do the donuts. Yeah. It's something we've always done, but yeah, that'd be great. Let's do fruit, man. I think once you step into that, you realize a lot more people are searching for that. They want that. I think that's why my message and your message resonate a lot because look, man, even at my lowest point, I saw people doing well and I wanted that, right? Maybe I didn't necessarily know the steps to get there, but I wanted that deeply in me. Everybody wants that, man. And so we start by leading ourselves. I love all those points, man.
Yeah. I mean, at its base level, if you can't lead yourself, people won't trust you to lead them. Now, in my life, listen, I was way overweight. I lived an unhealthy life. I drank too much. I I lived that life. And people still chose to follow me because I was really good at my job. So I've got, if there's two ideas here, there's leading self, being healthy, being positive, all of this. But you can't just do that and not be good at your job.
Yeah,
right? You also, so as a banker, I had to be a really good banker. I actually had to be an even better banker because all this stuff was out of whack. I could have been less good at my job if I was more good at my life. But instead I was like this. So it's not like I got less good at my job. It's like I got better at my life. And guess what? That's when real success started to hit. Real success started to hit when I was a master in my job, and then I mastered my life. So I would say to the young aspiring leader, master your life because you have control over that, and stay focused on mastering your career because that will come over time with experience. And when you get to that place, there's just no stopping you. And the world today, as I observe it, and let's just say the American economy, as I observe it, so not the entire world, but the American economy, is so ready for individuals to step in to a leadership role with creativity and energy and discipline and hard work. There are many people ready to follow. And that's not a degradation to the followers. It just means that there are people who are ready for someone to step in with integrity and authority and mastery, somebody who is actually a good, solid human being that has other people's best interests in mind, but lives healthy. Like, we are ready. We are ready
to follow that person, people. Right? Yeah, of course.
100%. 100%, right?
I think too often now we see a lot of these leaders and I can use politics or whatever, preaching one thing, but living a different life. Right. And you see this too often. Congruent.
Too much.
Right. And so it's, why do you think like good leaders don't keep climbing that line and take office and have these massive roles? I mean, you see some of them, I'm sure. Right. But why is it like not that common, I guess, for people to like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen. I think it can be as simple as economics. I mean, let's just take it that way. I suspect that I would be a pretty good. I don't want to say politician because that. I think I would be. If I was governor of the state of Washington, if I was senator, if I was, I don't know about president of the United States. I'm certainly not qualified for that. Hardly qualified for governor. But let's just say I was governor, right?
Yeah.
Like, I would feel pretty comfortable that I could make good decisions that were good for most people. I mean, that's kind of the trade-off in government, is you can't make everybody happy. But the lifestyle for the trade-offs there, right? I don't have any time with my family. I don't have discretion over my calendar. I don't get to do the things that maybe I don't get to be there for my kids and for my wife. I'm not necessarily building something that I'm going to keep forever. I would have to leverage my political connections then for jobs after, right? Like, it just doesn't, I hate to say it, but it doesn't pay.
Yeah.
In a clean way. So then what we see is all this noise about, politicians who make $175,000 a year, but their net worth has grown by $30 million. And it's like, well, how did you do that?
Yeah.
So it really takes an individual who wants to be, altruistic. They want to give back. They want to do the right thing, and they're comfortable with that lifestyle, and they're going to be able to say no to temptation. Like, it's a convergence of a lot of really good things. And so why I don't do, and then there's just the whole thing. Like, if I ran for office, what is my family going to be put through? What is the opposition going to say about me? Like, oh, you did this bad thing. Like,
that's where you got to pull a B Rabbit from 8 Mile, and your first press conference, you got to be like, look, I did all these bad things. Now I'm this.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I ask because I mentioned this to my wife, like on a walk a couple of days ago. You and Rob Smith are the two guys. And Rob was a former guest on my pod, went on a retreat. I could see either one of you guys as guys that if Tyler Tope got to cast the sole vote for a leader of the United States, of whatever that would be, you guys would be.
Dude, don't even go there.
You guys, I'm not saying you're probably too smart to do something like that, but I'm just saying I look at you guys as that caliber of a leader who you really lead yourself, and you really like impact everybody below you to really want to do their best, do a great job, inspire people, do it with integrity, all these things you've laid out. And so I guess what do you attribute that to? Is that just a career, ups and downs, learning? How do you get to that spot,
right? So first of all, I'm like really flattered, blown away.
Bro, I got a couple billionaire clients. We could probably make this happen if you're on.
Set up my super PAC. That's so good. So, but at the core of it, like I'm hearing you say, I think I heard you talk about integrity. Did I hear that right? Like what was the?
Yeah.
So listen, it's in this moment where I'm going to display that. Like, how did I get to this point? Right. So, I made it, I want to say 56 days through 75 hard. And that was like 3 days ago. Okay. And there was this moment where it's Friday night and there's a second workout on deck. And I've got the 10 pages of reading to do. Okay. And a few things have been stacking up in my mind around that. And I asked myself the question, okay, you got 20 days left. What's the choice you're going to make, Nick? And I wrestled with it, man. Because I had been posting on socials that I'm doing 75 hard and like, let's go and let's do this. And it's been a grind. And I'm like, am I a failure? Because like on the app, it says,
oh yeah,
I failed. Either you did it or I failed. And like, how do I approach that when I make this choice to not do that second workout and do the 10 pages of reading, right? And I'm asking, well, where is my integrity? I made a commitment to do this. Where is my integrity? Well, what else did I make a commitment to? To Ariana, to my kids. I made a commitment to them to be there and to be present with them. But I also made a commitment to give them the life that I think they deserve, which means that I made a commitment into my businesses. And when I set out for the 75 hard, I didn't anticipate 2 months down the road where I would be in my life right now and where my attention was going to need to go and the sacrifice that would be necessary, right? So how do I get to a place where I could do that thing that you just suggested, which is the bee rabbit come out and say like, oh, I'm a sinner, right? And say, but I'm still good, right? This is the thing. This is the thing. At the heart of that integrity is to look in the mirror and say, I'm not perfect and I'm not bad. I'm not a failure. I'm not a quitter. I made a choice. It's not that I lack discipline. It's that the sacrifice and the sacrifice on one side and the choice. So I have agency around that, right? And so I don't walk with shame. There's the punchline.
Man, that's big.
I don't walk with shame.
That holds so many people back, man. Oh, I'm this. I believe those come from the enemy, and he's really good at looking for moments to plant those in our mind and to hold us back, right? I actually stopped 75 hard at day 68. I had a week left, and I told myself this isn't serving me any longer. I'm sore. I'm beat up. I'm going to bed at 7 o'clock. I can't even play with my kids at night. It's just for ego that I would do it another week to say I finished it.
Exactly.
There's no other reason.
So where is your integrity? But I'll tell you, like, tell me you didn't wrestle with that decision.
Oh man, I made a whole video about it. Yeah, and then it's like, what are people going to view my life as I say I'm going to do this, but I don't. But I go back to like I audit myself every month and I say, well, where does my best energy
exactly?
People that I even say this with marriage. Oh, it's 50-50. It's 50-50. No, man, it's not. Sometimes it's 100-0. everything in moderation, especially moderation. There are times, man, there's times where you got to be all in on business, and you have to sit your wife and kids down and say, the next 2 weeks, I got to go. And it's so that I can get this life. Hey, you know what? In fitness, when you're 305 pounds, guess what? You need to make that a very high priority thing. Now that you're 210 and jacked and like, we work out a lot together, so I know.
And I'll tell you,
right?
one of the things that I helped calm my heart was I went in and got this body scan, and so I maintained body fat percentage like sub 15%, and I'm like, what am I? I'm not doing this for fitness necessarily. I haven't drank alcohol in 57 days. It's not like I'm quitting so I can go run to the bottle. Like, honestly, I don't know if I'll ever drink alcohol again. So did this 56 days serve me in a way that was like, on some level, who cares about 75 days? Like, are these, I'm drinking a gallon of water, and if I don't, I feel thirsty, right? These are lifelong. So God bless Andy Frizzell for coming up with this thing. And all that stuff. And here's the thing. So in the whole context of make time to prepare for a time when there is no time, right? Like, I'm going to do this again, and I'm going to do it again next calendar year, and I'm going to do it with eyes wide open, and I'm going to complete the 75 days, and I'm going to do it smarter, and I'll be prepared. But I learned so much about myself. But going back to that question, like, the thing that is that leadership, people in leadership, I don't know how to say that, leadership is fraught with shame. Leadership is fraught with shame. I worked in an industry that prided itself on how smart people were. The financial industry at the highest levels are very, very smart people, quants, right? Like mathematicians that do, calculus in their head. It's like, I don't understand you, right? And so if you don't have the right answer, like, there's shame. And people will get into like verbal arguments over like the accuracy of someone's prediction of the economy. High levels. And so being able to walk into a room at that level, at the executive level, and say, I made a mistake, guys. Like, when I was leading, so I'm reporting to the I'm going into the board of directors, right? I'm reporting to the board of directors. There is no way I would feel comfortable in my skin saying to the board of directors that I made a mistake with the balance sheet of a bank. No. I mean, I would just expect to be immediately fired, right?
Yeah.
But the truth is something different. The truth is that the truth inspires trust, right? And it's not just about saying I made a mistake. It's this was my choice. This was the consequence, and here's what I'm doing about it. You put those three things together, and I'd be hard pressed to see anybody respond very negatively unless it was like, catastrophic.
That's the big piece there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always say that to husbands that make a mistake with their kids or their dad. Dude, own it, and then say what you're doing to improve it, right? Man, I'm really sorry I lashed out. That's because Dad didn't get enough sleep last night. I was up working late. You know what? I'm going to get up a little earlier and do my morning routine. Make sure I fill myself up so I don't take it out on you guys. Had nothing to do with you. That's my bad, right? You went with ownership of it. Jocko talks about this all the time. Extreme Ownership, one of my favorite books, where he had to walk in front of joint commanders and say, his squads got caught in friendly fire. And he said, I could have thrown other people under the bus, right? I didn't have the right intel. I didn't have XYZ. Hey, it all falls on me. This is what I'm doing to fix it. And dude, you're right. I think 99 out of 100 people, there's always one Karen, right? But 99 out of 100 people are going to hear that and say, man, I can respect that. I'm on board with that. That's what I crave in a leader. And to be quite frank, that's why I hate politics today. Because I'm yet to hear a politician go up and say, you know what? When COVID hit, when I made this decision because of this information, now that new information's come out, I was pretty off the mark. I was wrong. If I could go back, I'd do that. But here's what I've learned from it. It's not to jump to, it's not this way, here's what we're going to do about it in the future. Bro, I will vote for that person as long as they're in office, right? But I've never heard that once, I don't think.
And I would even say to the person, you can take the language of right versus wrong out of it and use this language. This is the choice that I made. This was the consequence. This is what I'm doing about it. Because there's a consequence to every choice. And the judgment of good or bad, of right or wrong, is subjective, because to one person it was good and right. To another person it was bad and wrong. But the consequence is more factual. So this is the choice, this is the consequence, and this is what I'm doing about it. And then I can take myself out of it, right? But in the context of this kind of integrity and my own shame, as I'm balancing, like I've got the leader development business that I'm growing, this chosen leader brand. Yeah. We're really close to launching a few big things around this. I created this course, and I got signed up with a nonprofit, it's a prison education nonprofit, and hundreds of people going through their kind of reentry program are being given access into this leadership development course. It's phenomenal. And I'm working with companies now to develop their early leaders, their kind of nascent, aspiring leaders, and then one-on-one folks. And we're launching this 8-week intensive experience, right? So there's this thing that's going on. And then in the background, I've been developing a small business growth consultancy, because 25 years in banking, people are calling me all the time. Hey, can you help with this or that? And as a spinoff from that, the shirt that you're wearing, Jesus for 3, I get introduced to Scott Rulon, and he's got this vision of where he wants to go with this brand, and to help kids and get more kids engaged in youth sports, and to be, to hear about the good news of the gospel, and like his whole life story. And I hope you'll have him on your podcast soon, because his story is awesome. And I'm like pouring into all of these things, and like, what are the choices that I'm making, and what are the potential consequences of those choices? Well, if we can be successful in growing this brand, Jesus for 3, what do we do? Well, we create jobs, we create economic opportunity, we introduce kids to sports, and we give kids opportunities to be in community and to be surrounded by people who are there for their best interests. Like, that's way bigger than me. The energy that I put into developing leaders through Chosen Leader and that brand, way bigger than me. The support that I do through 8th Avenue Investors and growing small businesses, here again, the economics and the impact down the road. Like, there are choices that I make and consequences of those choices, and that that gives me agency, and I have some visibility into like what I'm doing with my life, right? And so if I choose not to do something, or if I make a mistake in pursuit of some of those things, I don't need to carry shame. I just acknowledge it as a choice with consequence. And then I can make another choice. I can always make another choice. So long as I wake up breathing, I can make another choice.
That's so good, man. I'm chuckling as you say that, because we left the park early today. I take my boys to the park every morning, and they ate Play-Doh again after I'd warned them. And I'd told them, if you eat Play-Doh again, that's the choice you make, and there's going to be a consequence. But it's a lot of these lessons I teach, you can go back and still apply, right? I think so good, man, the way you say that, and not right and wrong. I love that language of just choice and consequence. Every choice you make has a consequence. Yep. I think that's amazing. I think one cool thing you do that you won't even see the fruit of, man, because I've partially been through not even your full, cohort of coaching, but we've just chatted so much about it. I feel like I've gotten a good taste. I know like Matt Moore, who's now crushing it with Elevate, and I need to get him on here, and a lot of other guys that have all been through your course. They talk about it every week on social media. Oh man, I've learned this and it's helped me with this. But how many people have you, in prison that are going to take this someday, and you won't even see impact that has for generations? And how cool is that, man, to wake up every day and the choices you're making are impacting the world in such a positive way, right?
Yeah, how that happened, this alignment with the Prison Scholars Fund is just beyond me. The time, it's divine. It's his hand, not mine, to bring these together. And it, if that was the only thing that the course existed for, I'd feel so good. I'd feel so good. Um, and I here's something that we were talking about earlier, but we didn't put a name on it, and it's humility. We talked a bit about something that I would label as false humility and true humility. And I think you were talking about the whole donuts and the fruit thing in the office, and you were like, "What? I don't want to come off like I'm better than someone else, right? Because I'm making good, healthy choices." And I guess I want to say like, but it's okay to feel that way. That yeah, choosing to take your kids to the park is better than giving them an iPad when you have the ability to go to the park. Now, this is contradictory to what I just said about choice and consequence and good and bad, and I get all that. But for your life and where you are at and your values and your judgment, then yes, that is the case. From a place of real humility, I am very, very good at developing leaders. Like this is something that it just is the truth, right? Now, I'm not the only one who's good at it. I'm not the only one who's very, very good at it. And there are people who are better than me. And I'm very good at it. I'm not good for everybody. Like there's personality clashes that don't work. But for those that I'm good with, I am. And so I can like stand really confidently in that place and say, I need to do this. I can't not do this. There's a guy, Paul Shoemaker, wrote a book called Can't Not Do. I can't not develop leaders. It's more than I have to. It's that I can't not do. Because it works. Because it's like my purpose. It is my purpose. It is what I was like created to do.
Calling on your heart, right? And I feel like for anybody out here who doesn't have that, what you just described is, man, I have this burning in me and I know I'm great at it and this is what I'm supposed to do. If you don't have that, you should never watch a TV show again. You should literally just seek, journal, whatever you need to do, hire mentors, discover that thing. That was me 4 or 5 years ago when I discovered that thing. I love coaching. I love developing. I love other people winning and encouraging. God gifted me those things. I'm great at it. I'm okay to say that. I'm great at it, man. I'm okay to say it doesn't come from, there's better coaches than me. If you can afford it, pay Zach Hummel. He's better than I am, right? Like I always tell people that, but God put that in me and I'm not for everybody,
that's right.
But I'm for somebody. And like, once you discover that, man, everything in life changes. And then that becomes a very clear purpose. Back to that first thing we were talking about. How do you get that vision and that purpose? I feel like that's it. What you just described, you hit the nail on the head right there, man. And I love the way you put it.
And a good friend of mine, Dr. Rob McKenna, developed this leader development program. So we hang out in the same sandboxes, and I actually use his materials because they're excellent. But he says a couple things. He says, number one, there's purpose, which is, we were created as, individuals, unique individuals for a purpose. We have purpose. Our experiences, our DNA, our upbringing, like all of these things, have a purpose. And then there's a calling, and this external calling. Some people would refer to it as like my calling, but if you think about it, take out your cell phone and call yourself. Just goes right to voicemail. A calling comes from someone else, right? So his calling, this external calling. Where are you called into serving your purpose, right? And for me right now, for many, many years, it was inside banking. I was a leader developer inside of banking. I was a senior executive inside of banking, developing people into their next leadership roles. Now I'm called into doing this globally, right? That's my purpose. I'm called into doing this work there now.
It's cool.
Purpose and calling. Yeah.
Your life as God kind of prepared the way too. You know what I mean? Step by step by step. 20 years ago,
prepared me.
Weren't ready to go globally and do all the things you're doing and talk to the kind of people that you're talking to on a daily basis, right? But step by step, now you're there, man. It's awesome to see, bro.
Yep. So there's purpose and there's calling, and getting clear on my purpose. That's a part of the course that I've developed. But then listening for the call, being open to that call, because it might take you where you didn't didn't expect. The other thing that Dr. Rob says that is so right on is in response to the question, well, how long does it take to develop a leader? This is the question that a lot of see. How long does it take? How much time do we have to invest? And the answer is 2 to 3 years. And Rob would say it like really emphatically. He would say 2 to 3 years. Now let that sink in. Let it sink in. 2 to 3 years. So what are you doing today to develop in 2 to 3 years? And I 100% believe it. Like you just said, 20 years ago, I couldn't do what I'm doing today because I didn't have this experience. I didn't have the thoughtful experience. I wasn't clear on my purpose. I hadn't honed my skills. I didn't point my compass in the direction of pursuing mastery in the areas. I didn't develop the relationships that I would need to be here today, but I got intentional about those things. And so today, when the call comes, I'm ready. I'm prepared. And, you know, that's like everything.
David defeated Goliath long before that battle, man. Every day when he fought the bear, he fought the lion, he was in harmony with God.
That's right.
Singing the songs. He walked up, you know, the NBA champion, Michael Jordan, won his titles in the gym when nobody was looking, man. That was just the stage he performed on, but the battle was won before the battle ever started.
That's right.
You have to look at that every day, man. Yeah, it's always up there. I agree, brother. I need 2 things from you. Can I get them from you real quick?
Okay. Yes.
Number 1, man, can you tell everybody where to find you? I'm going to link everything you do below, but I want to get your message out to as many people as I can. And then number 2, I want to promise from
Thank you, man,
that we get you back on here. I want to set the longest podcast record with you, man. I just want to do like a freaking one whole day where you don't have much and I don't have much. And we just do like a 4-hour, because I could just, I look at my clock, I'm like, it's already been an hour and I got to hop off, but I would love to just have a day where we can just keep diving in.
Yep.
We can keep asking.
Well, if we stick to the cadence, so I think my first appearance here was like a year ago, because it was right after I published my first book.
Yep.
Second book is coming out. And you know, people can find me on all the socials at Chosen Leader. There's some underscores in there, but at underscore chosen underscore leader. Yeah, all that stuff. Somebody beat me to the handle, but chosen-leader.com. Chosen-leader.com has got links to all the socials.
Nice.
Or they can just, you know, check out your timeline, because I'm commenting under all your stuff all the time. And then so like maybe 1 year from now, we'll just block out 4 hours and hang out.
I like it, man. We can do. I've always wanted to want to have a vision in my head. We should do this together, where we're like getting a workout outdoor, and then we're just taking a walk.
Okay.
And we just have a guy come and shoot the podcast while we're doing it. I just think that'd be fun, man. I think that'd be.
I'm in.
All right.
I'm in.
A year from now, we'll put it on the books, man.
That's perfect.
And well, I love you to death, man. Again, Chosen-Leader is your website. We're going to link everything he does.
Yes.
I'm telling you guys, for $13 or whatever, you can get this book for too. If you're any kind of middle manager wanting to be a middle manager, I don't push stuff a lot on my pod or even anything I do. This is just, it can help you so much, man. If I had this 6 years ago, I'd gotten promoted 4 more times. I can tell you that much. So check out everything my man Nick.
It's awesome.
He's just an awesome guy. He's inspiring me, inspires everyone around us. Nick, I love you to death, bro. Give the people the last word, man.
Love you, Ty. Well, I got to plug Jesus for 3 and the shirt that you're wearing, right? The story that Scott has to tell and the work that he's trying to do. So that's Jesus 4, the number 4, spell out 3, his vision. We're getting into telling his story now. That's going to be released over time. And like that's got me motivated and pumped up just to see you wearing that shirt.
It's like an onion. The more I learn about this brand, the more I love it. That they give back to youth sports on every purchase. You get back to youth sport. I mean, I just love his mission and his heart. Right. I'm 100% podcast here in the next.
This is something that nobody knows. But when he and I were going through pricing on his product, there's zero profit on the youth tees. There's only profit on the adult. He wanted the price of the youth stuff to be break even to make it more accessible for the kids. And so the brand in and of itself is not a huge money maker. It's more of a platform for storytelling. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, he's
a storyteller.
It's good.
Brother, I always say that.
Thanks, man.
Right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We got my main man here, Nick Anderson, coming live from sunny, allegedly it was sunny yesterday. I've never seen it sunny in Seattle. I'm going to go do the dad thing here. You guys go be kind to yourself, be kind to other people. Drop that shame he was talking about earlier, man. Let that stuff fall off. Go be the best version of yourself today. Let's go light ourselves, lead ourselves, and attract other people with us, baby. Let's go change the world. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Have the greatest day.